The night I found out my husband had secretly transferred our house into his mother's name. I was standing barefoot in our kitchen, holding a birthday cake for our daughter. I still remember the way my hands shook when the bank manager asked me why I was pretending to own a property that legally belonged to someone else. Pretending? That word shattered something inside me. For 12 years, I worked double shifts, skipped vacations, and drained my savings to help pay for that home while my husband promised we were building a future together. Meanwhile, he and his mother had been planning behind my back for months. They thought I'd never leave because I had nowhere else to go. They thought I'd cry, beg, and accept humiliation. What they didn't realize was that the moment they betrayed me, they handed me the perfect opportunity to destroy everything they valued forever. I met Daniel when I was 24 and completely broke. He was charming in that dangerous kind of way that makes you feel chosen. He remembered tiny details about me, brought coffee to my office, and talked constantly about building a stable future together. After growing up with parents who fought over unpaid bills every month, stability sounded romantic. When we got married, Daniel convinced me we should combine finances immediately. He said marriage meant trust. At first, I believed him. I worked as a nurse, picking up overtime almost every weekend, while he ran a small construction business with his mother handling the accounting. Whenever money became tight, his mother, Evelyn, always blamed the economy, difficult clients, or delayed payments. Somehow, there was never enough cash. Still, we managed to buy a modest house in the suburbs after our daughter Lily was born. I cried the day we got the keys because I truly believed we had finally escaped instability. I painted every wall myself, while Daniel promised this house would always belong to our family. Over the years, I noticed strange things. Bills disappeared before I could read them. Daniel became defensive whenever I asked about taxes or mortgage statements. Evelyn constantly inserted herself into our decisions, acting like the house was hers. Once, she walked into my kitchen and casually said, "A woman should never get too comfortable in a home she didn't secure herself." I never forgot that sentence. Then came the year everything collapsed. Daniel's business started failing badly. He stayed out late almost every night, claiming he was meeting investors. Meanwhile, collection notices began arriving at our mailbox. Whenever I confronted him, he exploded with anger and accused me of stressing him out. One evening, I overheard Evelyn whispering to him in the dining room. She said, "If she finds out now, she'll take Lily and ruin everything." Second they realized I was nearby, they stopped talking. That night, I checked our financial records for the first time in years. What I found made me physically sick. There were massive business debts connected to Daniel's company, hidden loans, and unpaid taxes. Even worse, our mortgage paperwork had changed months earlier. My name was gone completely. I thought it had to be a mistake. The next morning, I went directly to the bank during my lunch break. The manager looked uncomfortable the moment he pulled up the documents. He explained that Daniel had refinanced the house and transferred ownership to Evelyn using power of attorney forms filed during a previous hospitalization after I gave birth. To Lily, I felt cold all over. I had signed medical paperwork while heavily medicated years earlier, trusting my husband completely. Somehow, buried inside those documents, Daniel had slipped in forms giving him temporary financial authority over shared assets. He used that authority later to remove me from ownership entirely. Legally, the house no longer belonged to me. I drove home numb, but instead of confronting them immediately, I stayed silent. For the first time in my life, I understood that anger alone would not save me. I needed patience. I needed proof. Most importantly, I needed revenge that would hurt. So I started pretending everything was normal. For 3 months, I played the role of the supportive wife perfectly. I cooked dinner, smiled through conversations, and acted grateful whenever Evelyn criticized me. Meanwhile, I secretly met with a lawyer named Rebecca, who specialized in financial fraud and marital asset disputes. Rebecca uncovered something even bigger. Daniel and Evelyn had been using the house as collateral for failing business loans. If the company collapsed completely, the bank would seize the property. Evelyn thought transferring ownership into her name protected Daniel from legal consequences while leaving me trapped without rights. But they made one fatal mistake. Because Daniel used fraudulent signatures and concealed debt during refinancing. The entire arrangement violated multiple banking regulations. Rebecca explained that if we moved carefully, it could trigger investigations that would freeze Daniel's business accounts and expose Evelyn to financial liability too. I remember staring at Rebecca across her office desk and asking one simple question: can they lose everything? She smiled slightly. Yes. That became my mission. I started gathering evidence obsessively. I copied emails, photographed financial records, and recorded conversations whenever Evelyn bragged about controlling the house. One afternoon, she actually laughed and told her friend on speakerphone, "If Daniel divorces her tomorrow, she leaves with nothing." I recorded every word. Then I waited for the perfect moment. Daniel's company announced a massive luxury condo project that was supposed to save the business. He invited investors, local officials, and family members to a glamorous launch party at an expensive hotel downtown. Evelyn spent weeks bragging online about their family's success story. Neither of them realized federal investigators were already reviewing their accounts. The night of the event, "I wore a black dress," Daniel once said, "made me look intimidating." For the first hour, I smiled beside him while he shook hands and delivered speeches about loyalty, sacrifice, and family values. Listening to him lie so confidently almost impressed me. Then Rebecca arrived. She walked straight through the ballroom carrying a thick folder and accompanied by 2 investigators from the bank's fraud department. I will never forget Daniel's expression when they asked to speak privately with him and Evelyn immediately. The room went silent. At first, Daniel tried laughing it off like some misunderstanding, but the investigators began asking specific questions about forged signatures, concealed liabilities, and unauthorized transfers. Evelyn's face turned pale so quickly it looked painful. Guests started whispering everywhere. One investor stormed out after overhearing the words fraud investigation. Another demanded repayment immediately. Within minutes, the celebration transformed into chaos. Daniel pulled me aside desperately and whispered, "Did you do this?" I looked directly into his eyes and said, "You already took everything from me. I just stopped protecting you." By midnight, the project funding had collapsed completely. Within weeks, Daniel's business filed for bankruptcy. The bank froze Evelyn's accounts pending investigation. And because the house had been tied to fraudulent refinancing documents, ownership became disputed in court. Eventually, the property was ordered sold to repay debts. Evelyn lost the house. She stole from me anyway. Daniel lost his company, his reputation, and nearly every friend who once admired him. The same relatives who called me dramatic suddenly discovered the truth and stopped answering his calls. The funniest part was what happened afterward. Rebecca helped me secure a financial settlement using evidence that my income had funded most household expenses for years. Combined with damages from fraudulent conduct, I walked away with enough money to start over comfortably with Lily. Daniel ended up renting a tiny apartment across town. The last time I saw Evelyn, she stood outside the courthouse staring at me with pure hatred. She asked if destroying their lives made me happy. I told her something I had rehearsed for months. "You destroyed your own lives the moment you confused my kindness with weakness." And for the first time in years, I walked away feeling free, respected, financially secure, and completely unafraid of either of them ever again. For a long time, I thought surviving betrayal meant learning how to forgive people who hurt you. I was wrong. Sometimes surviving means finally recognizing your worth and refusing to let dishonest people keep benefiting from your silence. Daniel and Evelyn thought they could manipulate me forever because I trusted them deeply. In the end, that trust became the very thing that exposed them completely. Today, Lily and I live in a smaller home filled with peace instead of fear. And honestly, that feels richer than anything we lost. If there's one thing I learned, it's this. The people who underestimate quiet strength usually regret it the most. If this story shocked you or reminded you of someone toxic in your own life, comment below and tell me what you would have done in my situation. And don't forget to subscribe for more emotional revenge stories every single week online.